evening, and we did take action on our item of the 62 Route 28 West Harwich with a vote of 3-1 to move forward, and we will be bringing that back at a later date. Also, just want to announce to anybody here in the audience or online that if you are attending the meeting to either make a comment or to listen on the public hearing to approve a stormwater permit application for the 7-lot subdivision plan, Wildlife Circle off of Littlefield Pond Road, that has been postponed. Down Cape has asked for a continuance until March 5th. So just want to make that so you don't sit here all night.
Nice seeing you. Good to see you again. See you later.
And then,
I couldn't possibly have given that to you yet.
what? Yeah, no, you didn't give me that. As required by open meeting law, you are hereby informed that the town will be video and audio taping, as well as live broadcasting this public meeting. In addition, anyone in the audience who plans to video or audio tape this meeting must notify the chairman prior to the start of the meeting. Hearing nobody, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anybody for a public comment and announcement?
Good evening, Emily Mitchell, Town Clerk. As everyone knows, the presidential primary election is fast approaching, so I just wanted to come before you to give reminders to the board and through you to the public about a few key upcoming dates. So first, the last day to register to vote or to make any change to your voter registration before the primary is this coming Saturday, February 24th. Our office will be open from 9 to 5, specifically for anyone wishing to register or make changes to their registration. Next, anyone who is looking to vote by mail-in or absentee ballot, the deadline to apply for those ballots is Tuesday, February 27th by 5 p.m. We do have in-person early voting, which will begin also on Saturday, February 24th. Those Saturday hours for the in-person early voting are 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., and then that will continue the following week, Monday through Friday, February 26th through March 1st, and that will be 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m., our full business hours. And then, of course, Election Day itself is March 5th. Polls will be open at the Harwich Community Center from 7 a.m. excuse me, to 8 p.m.
Me again.
It's contagious. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Anybody else for public comment and announcement? Okay. Hearing nobody, can get the consent agenda.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. I move, if it's okay with you, Madam Chair, I'm going to do these separately.
Okay.
I move to approve the resignation of Charlene Pilon, Bikeways Committee, effective immediately.
Second.
So, Madam Chair, if I may, I could simply vote yes and say thank you to Charlene for her time and her efforts over 2.5 years, but, and move on to the next part of the consent agenda. But I'd like to make it very clear that this board member, and I feel I'm speaking for the other board members, feel that our committee members are incredibly valuable to our town and this board as well. And I'm bothered by this resignation for a few reasons. And after reading the letter of resignation, a couple of times, it read, honestly, like there was an awful lot of good that had come out of 2.5 years of Charlene being on this committee. The troubling part for me was at the bottom of the letter where there's a reference to lack of support from town administration and select board. And so what I did is I went and I watched 7 or 8 meetings trying to see if I could find anything that I could point my finger at specifically. Because for me, I feel this is something that needs to be acknowledged and corrected immediately if our volunteers don't feel like they're being supported or at least can be heard. If there's something that's not going right in one of their committees. So I wish we had an opportunity to have a conversation with Charlene, because after watching those meetings, she's a rock star. She's in it. She gave 100% every meeting, and like I said, there were a lot of really great things that got accomplished in her 2.5 years. And I would just urge any other committee member that before they're going to resign, unless it's for a reason like they've been on the committee for years and years, and it was just time to move on, if there's any committee member that feels that they're not getting what they should be getting from this board and town administration, talk to your liaison and have a conversation, because I really would have liked to have kept Charlene on that committee. And I think a lot can be handled with communication and discussion. And it bothers me to hear that we're not doing our job with our committees in terms of supporting them. So that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to get it out there, so thank you for the time.
Thank you, Jeff. Don?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Go one step further. Jeff, you had a conversation with her. Is there any chance that you could convince her to stay on?
I'm not the liaison of the Bikeways Committee.
Liaison.
Oh, Julie's the liaison. So I have not had a conversation.
This isn't a conversation about pitting blame on the liaison.
No,
because
no, no.
Oh, no, I don't.
And that wasn't the point of my.
I'm just wondering if we could hold off on this so we can just have a conversation and see if she's be willing to stay. Maybe it's just a big misunderstanding.
I, for one, would certainly support that, Don. I don't.
Yeah, we don't have to take any action. I personally have not ever heard from Charlene. I deal directly with Fran, who's technically their chair. And, we worked with them to figure out the best way to get the notification, do you remember that, in the pamphlet too, so people understand the new law that's in place in terms of safety on the bikeways. And, Link has been very responsive, as she says in her email. So I don't really know the reasons behind it, but we can certainly hold off and have a conversation. Maybe there's some value to that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The reason I say that is you and I have sat with different committees to try to segue in. And how I feel in general. We all have different styles. I personally feel like, here's my name, here's my number. You have a problem, don't feel free to call me. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you're an adult. I trust you. Meet. And everybody has a different strategy with this, but before I'd be willing to let somebody go who's like somebody you really wanted to keep if you interviewed them. I think
Yeah.
it's worth a shot to make a run at it.
Well, and I've often used Bikeways as an example, as they have their charge, they know what they're doing, and, sitting in, I do feel changes the dynamic of what they're trying to do.
That's what I'm
I've
saying,
sat in
yeah.
and met with them, and I've spoken with Fran and answered emails. They had somebody not attending their meetings, and he asked to make sure that person was removed. So I don't
remove
really
my
know the
second.
background.
I remove my second.
Yeah, and I'll remove my motion. And I hope this doesn't leave a bad taste in Charlene's mouth or the committee's mouth here, because I would love to know precisely and specifically where the select board and administration fell down with this one, because this is a great committee. and
Well, I'll
they've-
reach out to Fran.
Fantastic.
And
That'd be
have,
great. That would be
see
great.
if we could have a conversation.
motion-
So we'll just
motion
hold
removed.
it for,
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we approve the select board meeting minutes from February 12th, 2024. And I'm sorry, go ahead, Don.
You were doing them separately? I
Yeah,
thought.
I'll do them
Okay,
so.
second.
Continue.
moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Michael here?
Oh, Michael. Michael, are you on?
So I assume that means you're doing a roll call vote, and if you said my name, I'm an aye.
We did.
Yeah.
All
And I
right.
move to, I move to approve the request of the fire chief for vacation buyback.
Second, but I have a question.
Moved and seconded. You have a discussion?
Yeah, we've done this before. I've got no real problem. overall, but I'm just wondering when, in timing, that it's appropriate to do a buyback. You know, is it based on a fiscal year? Is it based on a contract? Or
I think it's fiscal year, right?
I mean, I budget for it fiscally.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to just,
I'm just curious about timing and stuff.
Table blank, Fire Chief. We budget for it fiscally, and there's nothing in my contract that specifies when the request can be made. I typically do it when I look at my schedule and decide that it, you know, I'll have the time left over, so it's appropriate for me to make the request.
yeah,
Okay?
I recall it. Thank you. Dick. So that was moved and seconded. Any other conversation? Michael?
No conversation.
Jeff?
Nope.
Okay, and you're good, Don. Okay, all in favor? I'm going to do my roll call because he's on. Michael?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so 4-0. I've already told you that the public hearing is continued, so on to new business.
Madam Chair?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Madam Chair?
Yes?
I believe we have to do a motion for a continuance date certain.
Oh, okay, for the public hearing?
Yeah, you have to open it and then
Yeah, that's right,
continue to a date certain.
Do you have your public hearing notice?
I do in a minute. Yes, I do.
And if I may, just to keep it easy, you just have to open the public hearing again because it's already open and we voted to continue it once already.
Yes, we did.
Yes, and I don't have that public hearing notice, so I move that we open the public hearing.
Second.
Continue it to May.
Now we can make the other motion. I seconded the
Yeah.
opening, so
Right.
we can vote on that and just
I'm an aye.
change the date. Aye.
All right, so it's continued to March 5th, 2020.
I would be an aye on that as well.
Thank
I'm
you.
an aye on that.
So
Me too.
4-0, I'm an aye. 4-0 on continuing the hearing, the public hearing. Now we'll go to new business.
New business. I move that we approve the personnel bylaw management compensation table.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes?
Madam Chair?
Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
I would just note that we opened the public hearing and voted to close the public hearing, but we took no action on voting a date certain on the continuance.
We didn't close.
We don't want to close it. We're continuing
We
it.
continue it to a date certain.
And I did, to March 5th.
And you did to March 5th? Sorry, I missed that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Now, on the, do you have any discussion on the personnel bylaw management compensation table?
Is that for me?
Yes.
Yes, I would ask that we have the current, or the new proposed bylaw. There was no mention or packet information on the last bylaw table, so I would ask that we understand what the net effect of this is.
I'm going to go to Joe on that. Joe, are you on?
Yes, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes, we can.
Would you like me to recite what is presently in the personnel bylaw for that table? Is that what you're looking for?
It's a little cumbersome.
Well, I don't, Michael, do you want Joe to refer to it now orally, or do you want a document?
Well, I think when we're presented this stuff, it makes a lot of sense to me to have the document that we are changing, so that we understand it. There's some percentages attached to this, but without going back through past packets. So it'd be a lot easier if we actually had the information in front of us.
Well,
I'm looking to understand what the net effect is of this change.
Monetarily.
yeah, well, it's a new grade. The M10 is a new grade entirely. So I don't
If
know.
that was directed to me, I understand that. I just want to know what the net effect is.
So Joe, do you want to give us a comp table next week that just shows us with and without? Because my understanding is this M10 is a new grade. So in terms of comp? I mean,
You're correct that the proposal in front of you adds a new grade, M10. And yes, I can add more information for the board to review next week.
May I, at the bottom of this grid, average 2.5% increase between steps, average 8.5% increase between grades.
right. And it goes, and it reclassifies the ATA from M7 to an M10.
Right,
So if you look at the M7, you can see the current steps,
right,
and then it's a new grade.
sure.
So I don't, without having something to otherwise to compare to, I'm not quite sure what other information there's going to be, but if Joe has more information he can provide, that'd be helpful to Michael.
So we table this?
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
like to.
Don?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to make at least one comment so that the public understands what's going on here. Even if you've heard conversations that we've had relative to having a human resources person, the bottom line here is the assistant town administrator's position has an abundance of tasks associated with it. So even without that one task, it was undergraded, and the public should know that because the person who's there, which isn't really what the position's about, but the person who's there does a significant amount of work that wasn't contemplated when the whole schedule was set up.
Right. Thank you, Don. All right, so we'll.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, Michael?
If I may, I believe being online, sometimes things get lost in translation. There's nothing to even say what the assistant town administrator's grade and step is now. I'm asking for a dollar amount change with the proposal. It seems like a fairly basic question. Other than that, I'd also like to know what changes across that bylaw, that union, not union, what else changes? Does anyone else's position change? There's no explanation other than a new table. And correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I missed something in the packet, but we are ultimately doing this because I brought up the fact that our assistant town administrator didn't make enough money for what she does. So in essence, tonight, we'd be voting a raise. So if this is going to be associated with a position, I'd like to know the time. I'd like to know the amount. I'd like to have something from the town administrator as her employer as to his support in the change. So there's no information in what we have in front of us tonight to make an educated, thoughtful, factual decision. Is that more clear?
So, yeah, I mean, you're looking for more information, we're tabling it. When I look at this memo, I look at a creation of a grade first. First, we're creating a grade M10. That's how I look at it, but we can certainly table it and have additional information. So, we will move along. Discussion on items related to the 2024 annual town meeting. Joe, I'm going to hand this to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, what you have, or what you should see in your packet is a memo with a brief update to the sources and uses table. As you can see in the memo, the only changes from your discussion last week are in highlights on the sources and uses. First is the number related to county retirement. You may recall that this information was actually provided to you at the meeting in real time by the finance director. That is just incorporating into the document the facts that were presented last week. And then what you'll see for the Monomoy Regional School District, the dollar amount presented there represents what was presented to the school committee, I believe, on February 8th. So that number has changed and that has gone down. So you can see the net effect on the sources and uses that we're relying upon for the budget discussions. And again, you're scheduled to have Dr. Carpenter, Mr. McMillan, and I believe the chair of the Monomoy School Committee at your meeting next week.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions from board members on this particular, on the sources and uses and estimated revenues, et cetera? No?
None.
Don?
No, other than really, the time is fleeting away here. I'd really like to get to the point where past sources and uses and talking about actual line items.
Michael?
No, I would just request that next week's meeting, we add budget discussion. You know, we're, I believe, charter-driven to give Finance Committee at least what I would call a draft of the budget.
It is on for
not
next
having-
week.
Okay, because I asked a fair amount of questions and I managed to get maybe 50% of my answers. I also asked that the most recent budget documents that were in front of you last week, that they be scanned and sent to me. They were not. So I still have the remaining questions to be answered. And I'd like to get those answers answered and submit at least some changes to the Finance Committee, knowing that we're going to be coming back and changing it again.
Yeah, well, we have them on for Monday, and there was discussion about the timeline on getting them the books and everything, all of us, for March 2nd as well. But I'm going to let Kathleen speak to your question on the documents that you wanted emailed.
Chair, members of the board, hello. Kathleen Barrett, Finance Director. All the documents that I had compiled and were requested were all emailed Friday evening. It was really late, so it might have been something that got missed. It probably
You had
came
two
through.
emails, really. One
Yeah,
was
there was
Friday
one
and one was
Friday
Saturday,
night.
right?
It was late, and then one Saturday.
Yeah.
And I have hard copies of all the documents. I didn't know.
Maybe you could
What
just
number was
resend
passed
them
off?
to Michael.
Yeah, I have copies available. I'll scan them, and I can email them too, because there's a couple of quick updates that I thought would add a little clarity to what was already submitted.
Thank you.
That was
So-
Friday?
That was Friday, yeah, Friday and Saturday documents.
I don't have the Friday one.
It was like 9:30 at
I
night.
got them,
I'm
yeah,
looking at
9:30.
all Friday.
I got them.
Yeah. I have hard copies for you.
I got Saturday.
If you would like. I can give them to you right now. And then I can, Michael, I can scan all the documents that I have currently. I will send those to you right after this meeting.
Great. Thank you, appreciate
Well,
that. Michael?
Thank you, Kathleen, and it's not on, thank you, Kathleen, and it's not on the agenda, so we can't dive into it. We'll have to talk about it next week. But Rec and Youth, that was just one example, $24,687 on the bottom of the document that says other unclassified. Based on that change, I would assume other unclassified, because it was not on last year's, would be a enhancement of services. Overlay surplus, we talked about $100,000. The report, which this is very important, coming out of the Board of Assessors, is that the traditional amount is 300,000+. In a conversation today, it appears that it would be the same, so that would be an added back, because we took it off from last year, revenue source that would change a huge picture in our budget. Assessors, that contract, we need some more explanation on that, because that is a huge addition to what we did last year. Treasurer collector, Selectman Handler brought up the fact that we are not having a treasurer collector, and the fact that we have $90,000+ in that salary for a consultant, and we're still assuming that we're going to need a consultant moving into the next year's budget. So I have a lot of questions, even based on the information that I did read, but it's not clear, and it doesn't really answer the questions that were asked. So I will wait patiently until next week.
No, you,
to ask them in
Michael,
public.
you can ask them, because I vetted that with Joe as well. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't stepping outside the bounds. But ultimately, the fact that it's discussion on fiscal year 2025 budget as it relates to Finance Committee and what we're going to be providing them. So you can ask whatever questions you want tonight, if you'd prefer.
I would leave it up to you, and if you want to get into
Okay.
this level of conversation on it, I would ask for an explanation on everything I just asked.
So just to interrupt you for a second, Kathleen's going to go down and email you the documents that she had sent out, so that you can have them to look.
I have the document.
Oh, and he has
I
them.
There's some additional, and there's some context added, which I think.
Oh, you have some added
Mind copy
context.
what you're sending him?
Yeah, we'll get it. All right. So, do you want to,
Move to D right now?
yeah,
Get DO,
move to
yep.
D, and then we'll come back to that.
I move that we approve a special permit application for a one-day entertainment and a one-day wines and malt permit, WOMR, FM Lower Cape Communication, event to be held on May 11th, 2024, rain date of May 12th, 2024, 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. at Brooks Park, 1 Oak Street.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
It's a time delay.
Any discussion?
Yeah.
Don?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for the public's edification, again, so that they all know, yes, this is a charitable organization, because we've had substantial discussion on that.
Thank you, Don. Any further discussion?
Well, just out of curiosity, what is the charitable organization?
It's part of the public broadcasting service.
Gotcha, thank you.
Uh,
That's it for me.
Okay. All in favor? Jeff?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, 4-0.
He's only saying that because he doesn't have to pay anything.
What?
He's only saying that because he doesn't have to pay for a
Oh.
permit or anything.
We'll go on to old business until Kathleen returns. So that's, Joe, I'm going to go to you on the discussion on March 2nd, 2024 budget meeting. And I'd also ask if we could get an agenda for that meeting so that the schedule's known for Jamie to plan accordingly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's part of the purpose of the discussion this evening, is to verify and validate specifically what the board would prefer, so I can also communicate that to the Finance Committee. In years past, you have not had all departments presenting. There were departments that were requested by the board or the FinCom to present, and there were also departments that were seeking to present. I've suggested this year that you may also want to look upon the departments that have proposed enhancement of services. So the purpose of this agenda item tonight is to get some of that direction from the board so we can share it with FinCom and the department heads as we progress to March 2nd.
Thank you. Don?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe Michael and I made this comment at the last meeting. We were also talking about a weekday meeting that was parsing out the major departments like police, fire, and what the hell was it? Either schools or,
Yeah, and not to interrupt you on that, but we were talking about doing an additional meeting.
Yeah.
But then we were talking about, and this was between last week and this week, that if we think we're going to need more time, it's probably better to do it on the same day and just stay longer versus trying to corral everybody for another meeting. It just seems to make more sense because we don't want to tie up another weekend, and a weekday might be difficult. I'm open.
I was in
open to a
favor of the
weekday.
weekday because the big departments deserve that kind of exposure for,
Yeah,
what they spend and what they represent to the town. And I'd hate to have that overwhelm the other departments. It's going to be a long thing anyway.
Yeah, it always is. So, I mean, I guess the question is, do we want to go till, say we're going to go till 4 or something, or 5 versus getting out at 2 on a Saturday, or do we want to do another night?
I'd rather do another night.
So, do you have any,
I don't care.
okay.
It doesn't matter.
I don't mind. I just think it's more getting the different players.
Yeah, and I'm, as this is my first time going through this, I'm willing to do whatever the board decides is best.
Michael, you have any opinions? I'm sure you do.
No, as mentioned to you, I'm open for pretty much anything.
Okay.
And even if the, we make it a later day that day and we need more time to then vote put on that agenda that we have the right to vote another date and time to have another meeting on this. But to Joe's, I think, ask or more statement was, who do we want to see?
Right.
And Finance Committee should reach out. For me, the number one opportunity for the ones with the enhancement of services. And then the only other one really, Julie, would be those mentioned with a much higher budget request. But the ones that came in and kind of the guidelines on the budget process that don't have an enhancement of services, I think we're wasting their time. So I think we could easily put up the larger departments, the ones with the enhancement of services. Julie, you're a veteran in this, and so am I. A lot of that talk is just some questions that we already know most of the answers to.
Right.
So they go through their whole budget. We waste a ton of time because we've already seen it. And to me, it's more about the larger budgets, the budgets with the big percent increases, and those, most importantly, with enhancement of services, because it gives them two bodies to pitch their case to.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the other thing that, maybe we can devote some time, it doesn't have to be that day, but we talked about it a bit last week, is also combing through of where we have monies that can be returned, that are sitting in different areas that haven't been expended and can be returned, whether it be from our project list or what. So depending on how that day goes, maybe we could also devote some time to that. Any other discussion on that? So Joe, I guess trying to give you some direction on what that agenda looks like. I mean, to the point that we just talked about, it's those with the enhancement of services, and of course, those are the larger departments anyway. So I guess we can leave it to you to reach out to see if there's any particular time that works better for one than the other. We always have fire, we always have police, DPW. But,
So yes, that was helpful. In my notes, I have emphasis on the enhancement of service requests, departments that have, obviously higher budget requests by percentage, and then the bigger, what I wrote down was either bigger or larger budgets of departments.
right,
So I think that is more than enough for us to develop a draft schedule, share it with Finance Committee and the department heads, and then we'll just start allotting the timeframes.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll go back, Kathleen's back in, so we'll go back to our. Oh. Oh, it didn't? Yeah. Okay,
I'm having that same problem.
it's not going through?
It's staying in limbo, it doesn't get any further than,
Okay. Well, then maybe for that sake, we should bring it back well, we're gonna talk about it again next week anyway, so why don't, Michael, if you don't mind, there's trouble getting the file out to you, it's large file, so, why don't we just bring it back on, Monday next week? Because we're gonna talk
Sounds great,
about
thank you.
all of this again. And, so that's it, and I would go back to, the town administrator's report, since we already hit old business. Joe?
Thank you. Just give me a minute to shuffle through. No contract or appointment announcements. I do want to just put out there thanks from administration, and I'm sure folks in town. We got walloped by a bigger storm, I think, than was originally anticipated. And we appreciate everyone's patience as DPW worked with our new contractors and have been able to get the town back to a level we expect. So our thanks to the many plow drivers and the folks that make that work happen, Public Works, Public Safety, and Emergency Management. Other than that, I have nothing else to report.
Thank you, Joe. Select board members report. Don?
nothing.
Jeff?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only thing I will say is I'm looking at scheduling the next office hours for either Michael and I or just myself. I will add that Cindy and I got to know each other a little bit better on whatever day that was, day after Thanksgiving, with, just so the board knows, we had nobody show up for restaurant, hospitality, and bar. So, but it will not stop me. I am going to continue. I had a great time with Cindy, learned a lot, and the next one of the focus groups I will announce probably at next Monday's meeting as well.
Okay, thank you. And I don't have anything either, so.
Michael.
Oh, Michael, you have anything?
I have nothing, thank you.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Michael?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. 4-0. Good evening. Good night, I should